Call the meeting to order. We can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Larry Armstrong.
Here.
Sean Douglas.
Here.
Michael Howry.
Here.
Michelle Hayes.
Here.
Gene Sensi.
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Michael Howry.
Yes.
Michelle Hayes.
Yes.
Gene Sensi.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 16th, 2019?
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Michael Howry.
Yes.
Michelle Hayes.
Abstain.
Gene Sensi.
Yes.
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Vote is 4-0-1.
All right, we will move into board member reports, and we'll begin tonight with a moment of silence. It's always sad to learn of someone's passing, especially when it is a member of our Madison family. Recently, we learned of the passing of Barry Martin, founder of the Madison Gridiron Club, avid football fan, and father of Blue Streak's football coach, Mike Martin. Barry was born in Painesville, Ohio in 1951, passed away on August 15, 2019. He was a 1969 graduate of Mentor High School. Barry and his wife Denise married in 1975 and had two sons, Mike and Nick. Barry retired from Avery Dennison in 2010 and served as chaplain for the Sons of the American Legion Post 112. Football was a huge part of Barry's life. His love of Blue Streak football led him to establish the Madison Gridiron Club in 1999. Barry could always be found supporting his sons and his grandchildren at various sporting events. Barry will be missed greatly by his family, friends, and the Madison Blue Streaks. All of us at Madison Schools extend our deepest and most sincere sympathy to Barry's family and friends. Please join the board in me in a moment of silence in memory of Barry Martin. Any other board member reports?
I called Fish today. I'm looking forward to visiting his new leadership elective.
Good.
And I talked with him for 30 seconds because he was busy. Can you imagine?
Wow. First 10 days of school now. Busy administrator, how about that?
Yeah.
Any other board member reports? All right, we'll now open the first public participation portion of the evening. This is on agenda items only. Anyone wishing to address the board, do so by stating your name and address. All right, seeing none, reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
Thank you. I have two items that aren't on the agenda to talk about and two that are. First, the audit for the fiscal year end 2019 will be starting Monday. We're ready to go with everything that they've requested to date. If it goes like it went last year, they'll come out here and spend about 7 weeks looking through the financial records of the district, and I will keep you updated on the progress as they go along. You will probably also get an email from, I don't know if it'll be Andrea or Sarah from the audit team, announcing that the audit's commencing, and if you have any concerns, to email them back directly.
Mike, they don't do that with every district. They just do it with us because of our financial situation, right?
Well, they audit us if you receive more than $750,000 in federal funds. You are audited every year. If you receive less than that, you're audited every other year. And we receive well in excess of $750,000. The other item that's not on the agenda is, I guess nobody noticed, but LED lights. We had our second progress meeting with Energy Optimizers yesterday morning. We did voice some concerns, not about the finished product, but about the way some of the things were happening. and the electrical company does know that we're less than happy with some of the services being provided. That being said, they are most of the way through the project with the interior lights, and they'll be starting the exterior lights this week and working through next week on those. So you may see some lift trucks in our parking lots working on the exterior lights. Again, project was about $650,000, but we're gonna save at least $82,000 in energy each and every year. And then we talked about just the number of bulbs we aren't going to have to replace for the next 10 years and the man hours it takes to replace them. The last lighting project we did was 7 or 8 years ago, and those bulbs are now starting to fail. So we don't have to worry about manually replacing them with our labor. It's part of the lighting project that we're currently doing. So end of next week or the week after will be the walkthroughs. It may be further away than that.
Yeah, it's, I think, right after Labor Day. I think
Okay.
she was gonna do it.
They'll do the walkthrough and then find the places where they miss lights. If you walk into the cafeteria at the high school, nice white lights, yellow lights in the trophy cabinet, so they missed those. Outside of the restroom here, yellow light outside, nice white lights inside. So the lights that they miss really stand out at this point. But they're working along, and that project will be completed mid-October at the latest, provided they can get the units in for one of the gyms. They had to custom make some of the lighting units because of the type that were hung up there. Any questions on that?
It is much brighter, clearly.
If you go into the gym at the preschool, you can conduct surgery. It is that bright.
Yeah, looks like
We are-
sunshine.
We're looking at a solution to maybe not for regular events, turn all the lights on, because it's bright.
I'm better looking in the dark, and this is not working.
So the other two items, I have two rather lengthy resolutions on the agenda, one of which I talked about at the last meeting, and I just want to go over something with you again. Why we're doing it in a nutshell is to save the taxpayers what turns out to be now with the slightly lower interest rates, about an average savings of $79,000. That just means when the county auditors levies the taxes to make the debt payments, we have $79,000 worth of debt payments that we aren't going to be making. It just reduces it by that much. We might be getting close to that 10% savings, which is huge. I mean, we wanted between 3 and 5, but right as we preliminary priced it, rates dropped. So I don't know whether they're going to keep dropping, but the more rates drop, the better off we are. So that's the first one. The second one is the rollover of the House Bill 264 notes. Sent that information in an email. We issued notes in 2011 to pay for energy upgrades at the high school and North Elementary. That's how we got the air conditioning in those buildings and got different type of lighting. And since then, we rolled them 5 years without making any principal payments. After 5 years, we've been making $80,000 a year in principal payments. So we're going to roll the balance over less $80,000, and that rate should be right around 3%. It was 3% last year. It was a little better the year before. Rates are kind of where they've been, so we'll be looking at about a 3% interest rate. And we'll just keep doing that instead of turning them into bonds and locking us into a principal payment. If we have a year where we can make more, we would. If we have a year where we have to make less on a principal payment, that gives us the flexibility. And the one other thing about the BABs, I was able to talk them into, if pending final sale, making the principal payment due in October. We collect taxes during the calendar year for the debt service payments that are due in that calendar year. Right now, we've got about a $600,000 or $700,000 principal payment that's due in April, where we still have half a year of collections, and it makes financing really tough. I'm not going to be here when the first principal payment has to be made, because I don't think it's till 2027 or way down the road. But I want the next person sitting in this chair not to have to worry about the cash flow problem I've had to worry about for 8 years. So we're trying to get the principal payment moved to October 1st. So that'll be one difference, but it won't cost us anything but a little bit of interest on that first payment. Okay, any questions on any of that? So on to the items in the agenda. The first is to approve the financial reports for all funds, fund-to-fund transfer report, and the check payment register for July 2019.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. The next is to accept donations. Donation of $300 from the Warren team to North Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of $335 from the Madison Recreational District to North Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of $500 from Susan Leach to the Robert J. Leach Memorial Scholarship Fund. Donation of backpacks and supplies from Great Day Childcare to South Elementary School to be used as needed. A donation of backpacks and school supplies from Madison Ministerial Association to South Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of school supplies from Madison Healthcare to South Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of school supplies from Classic Jeep of Madison to North Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of backpacks and school supplies from Great Day Childcare to North Elementary School to be used as needed. Donation of backpacks and school supplies from Park United Methodist Church to North Elementary School to be used as needed. And a donation of $375 from Jack's Pools and Spas to North Elementary School to be used for t-shirts for the staff. And a donation of tree trimming services from Orion Tree Services to North Elementary School.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say thank you so much for all the donations. Every single meeting we have, we're approving donations. The community is very generous to our schools, so thank you very much.
Any additional discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. We'll get a drink before we read the next one.
In its entirety.
No. So the next one is a resolution authorizing the issuance of classroom facilities unlimited tax general obligation refunding bonds series 2019 as tax exempt or as taxable obligations in one or more series of bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10,665,000. Authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement appropriate for the sale of these bonds. Authorizing the execution of a paying agent agreement, authorizing the execution of a certificate of award containing the final terms of the bonds, authorizing the distribution of an official statement, and authorizing the execution of an escrow deposit agreement securing the refunded bonds and related matters, and the rest as listed in the agenda.
So you're not going to read the next 8 pages?
I am not going to read the next 8 pages.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
And we are thankful.
Be here about 11 p.m. and let you finish up.
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion?
How long does this process take to?
We are looking at probably a couple of months. The official statement is the piece that's going to take the longest. That's just a pack of financial information about the district. So that's going to take a while. I don't think they'll wait till the audit's out because we want to get these priced and sold in October, I believe.
It's most likely the rates aren't going to go down much more.
No, and we talked about that, about maybe waiting to see if there was another rate reduction, but we are generating so much savings as it is, we didn't want to be greedy and possibly have a rate spike. Because the rates are doing some crazy things based on, I mean, the market crashed last week because of the way this type of bonds are being affected in the market.
Any additional discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Jean Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. And the next one is the House Bill 264 bonds. A resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of bond anticipation notes for the purpose of refunding a prior series of bond anticipation notes, the proceeds of which were originally used to acquire energy efficiency improvements for the school district.
I'm gonna,
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Jean Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes.
yes.
Vote is 5-0. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Well, I have several things under my report this evening. First, opening of school went very smoothly. I think everything went very well, and we had some last-minute staffing that we dealt with, and so we'll be hiring a teacher this evening, although she's been working for a week now, Mrs. Melanie Lawson, and we are so happy to have her. And on opening day, the cheers and yes, see everybody. Again, you are a popular lady, Melanie. Enrollment, I think, is finally starting to stabilize a little bit. We've had people coming in as late as today. Kindergarten right now is at 185, so it is the smallest class in the district. One of the reasons I think it is, this tends to be smaller, and then we gain students into first grade is because we don't have all-day kindergarten. So there are parents that go looking for all-day kindergarten and then come back to the district for first grade, because I looked at the data from last spring with the kindergarten class, and we're up 13 in first grade this year. So, you know, we've had some kids move out, and so I think it's these families coming back then to the Madison after kindergarten. And I do want to go on record, since this is our first meeting taped since the start of school, to thank all the people that helped get the buildings ready for the start of school, from the custodians to our mechanics getting the buses ready, to our secretaries who have come in and, you know, been the frontline people with people coming in and out of the building. It takes a lot to get those doors open on the first day, and now into the second week, it's like we've been here for, you know, forever. So thanks to all the staff and maintenance that have worked to get everything ready. Transportation, we are now, I think, finding our groove. There's still a couple late buses, but for the most part, they've all found their rhythms and routines. Auburn route, I couldn't have asked for a better transition to that whole Auburn, getting on the elementary buses and the parents getting their kids to school. All I had to do was send those buses back twice on the opening day, and I said, that's the only time I'm doing this. If you miss the bus, it's on you. This is your job. It's your responsibility to get to work. And the kids have, every day it's been pulling out by 7:40. So our kids are now on time to Auburn, and we're not hearing the complaints that they're missing academics, waiting in line to punch in once they get to school. So very happy with how that went. That leads me to today with late arrival. That went like we've been doing it forever, with the later bus runs and students not being dropped off before, I think 7:40, 7:45, or 8:40, 8:45. We had a few kids for parent reasons, and we said we would have aides to, you know, watch them, that they were in the building, and, you know, we had about 9 kids at the high school this morning, and I think 15 or so at the middle school. So, and the 2 letters that we sent out, not a complaint from any of them, so I think the communication worked very well. I'm going to leave it to Dave's report to talk about what the teachers will be doing during that time, but it's gone very well. New materials for math, they've been working with those. So Shannon Ranta from the ESC is going to be working with our staff this year on the implementation of that, and she's helping to coordinate all that alignment of the work. And we met today after her first day working with the teachers, and she's got a plan going forward for next Tuesday where she's bringing both math from the middle school and high school together to work together to plan the implementation and what needs to happen. On the agenda this evening, you'll be approving the communications consultant that we'll be working with this year. I'm using one company to deal with the marketing or the logo that helped me design the logo and some of those materials. This person, the school communications person, will be working with the actual messaging and helping us work on that messaging. But I have to say, the flags were a big hit. Every staff member got the pen and the Post-it notes, and we've been with the new logo, and we're looking at, people are talking about it, which is what you want. Identifying a little bit more with the Madison brand, that it's not just something that is an add-on, but part of our story. So that's kind of the thing we'll be working with. The communication specialist will help us with online newsletters, generating 2 postcard mailings to the community at large, look at our web traffic and see where people are clicking and those kinds of things, and then really helping us with the social media piece and profile, and helping us to monitor that better, because that can become a full-time job, especially when people have questions about things, and they tend to get them answered going to the principals or going to the, through the word of mouth of the community sometimes, and so working to deal with that. I will get a update on the trademark by our September 3rd meeting, so that I have an idea of what we have to do to trademark our logo and our brand. Next Wednesday is the United Way kickoff, and our own Madison Drumline is going to be a part of that. Jean has gotten the ball rolling by sponsoring $100 of a $300, what are you calling that?
Scoreboard
Scoreboard shout out. So we will be collecting, I need 10 people for $20, and that would pay off the rest of the $300 scoreboard shout out. So if you want to do that, you can give it directly to Jean, or drop it off and we'll get it to Jean by next week. But it's again, the school that raises the most money will be recognized there at the end, and it was a lot of fun last year. And Mentor is going to be there this year, so in Riverside they're having their kickoff athletic thing, so they couldn't do
Did they
it.
win last year? They did.
They did, but we were close.
Yeah.
We were very, very close, so, and we have a bigger band this year, so there'll be more people, and hopefully,
It's a lot of fun.
it was a blast. It was a great way to kick off the United Way campaign for the
Was that your
year.
biggest one?
Yep. Yeah, we had about 1,800. We're expecting about over 2,000 this year.
So, it'll be great. Along that lines, we have our first home football game next Friday night, the 30th. It is the alumni band night, and the band is debuting something new at the pregame, so it's kind of exciting. A lot of good things going on. So, Michelle contacted me on Saturday and wanted to talk a little bit about mental health. So I'm going to segue to you, and then I will answer questions.
I had just messaged her and asked her if we had any money. I should have messaged you, the money man, but if we have any money allotted, or if there's funds available for a full-time social worker on staff. I understand that we use Crossroads, but they're not always here. I feel that mental health is something that we need to focus on. And I was hoping that we could all talk about it. I felt Sean would definitely have some good, well, you would also, all of us would have some good input on it, I think. But I wanted to have a talk about where we want to put what resources we have, where we want to put that money. There was some money allotted in the current budget for it, but we are using it to, I believe, supplement what we pay our nurses, is that correct?
What we plan on doing with the majority of the money is supplanting our current expenditures, meaning we already have the programs in place that the governor was looking at to have in place with these funds. And the idea was if you're already doing it, you don't have to add to it. You can now count the expenditures against the additional revenue. Typically when they give you new money, it has to be all for new programs. This was one of the times where they said, if you're doing it, count those expenditures against what you're already doing. As far as answering the question, I can answer from the financial side whether or not we should start adding staff. And the 5-year forecast I gave the board in May, not this year, but next year, has a $2 million deficit. So it's going to be better with the extra money that we got from the state, but it's not going to go away.
So outside of the nurses, what other programs are we using this for?
Well, we use it, we pay Crossroads, so we will, use some of that money for Crossroads.
So prior to that, we paid
No,
Crossroads.
not the church,
Just
not
wanna
the
make
church.
sure.
Crossroads, the middle
Prior to
Clear.
that, we paid our nurses and Crossroads.
Right, but that was, again, when you're looking at a deficit and the state says, and they very rarely say, you can use this money for things you're already doing, as long as, it meets one of their criteria, that's gonna help our bottom line. If I had an endless pot of money to implement all new programs, then that would be wonderful. I mean, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't love a full-time social worker. I mean, I don't think there's a teacher in this room that wouldn't love a full-time social worker. But the money is limited to these 2 years in this budget cycle. It's not added to the formula. It's not carried over. The money we're getting this year is unique to this year. The amount we're getting next year is unique to next year. And at the end of the day, you still have to have a balanced budget. So we're looking at the things we're currently doing. However, there are some things that we do want to do modestly. We've increased our trauma specialist, who I think was with us about 30 days last year. We've upped that person to 54 days, which is much like a social worker because she's an expert in behavior and has done a lot of work, especially at the elementary buildings, and helping to work with teachers and staff and how to work with kids that have experienced all sorts of forms of behavioral issues, trauma in their life, and that work that way. And I think we could up Crossroads a little bit so that their presence are more in the buildings for more days, so that there's a Crossroads counselor that goes to every building in the district. So if I can up it, especially at the elementary level, increase a day at the high school and the middle school, that's going to get more of that coverage, which then again, when these funds go away, if I have to withdraw those costs, I'm not laying off staff and I'm not incurring an unemployment expense. So.
Yeah, to add anything now to our budget would increase the deficit. So we already know we're going to have to make adjustments. If we start adding expenses in now, the adjustments have to be bigger. And then after the end of 2 years, what do we do with the programs that we implemented? Do we continue to offer them and know that now it's completely funded by the local taxpayers as opposed to the state funding? It is so rare that we as a district get additional money with very little strings attached, because we're already doing a lot of what they want us to do. I think we take advantage of it, increase the services where we think we can do it, and sustain it if the money should go away, and that's probably all we can do.
And you may not know this right offhand, but do you have any idea what our contract with Crossroads costs?
$25,000.
I think we
And
upped
we're
it
looking
last
at-
year. It went up a little bit. We upped it to 40 last year, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did.
And how many days a week do we have them in the buildings?
I think 2 to 3 at the middle school and high school, and then maybe a couple days a week at the elementaries.
What are your all's thoughts?
What's the end result we want to see from having a full-time counselor?
You know, I have, I've experienced that where I work with a lot of kids. A lot of kids are coming and talking to me about things. And these are all kids that go to Madison, and so many of these kids have some tough things going on in their lives. And I want to see us to have a social worker in the building that's identifying problems before we get to problems. Does that make sense? And to be able to teach these children about, oh, and that's another question I had. Teach these children about mental health and coping strategies and things of that nature. What exactly does our health class teach as far as mental health? And does it also teach coping strategies and things of that nature?
I would have to get that information from the health teachers, but yeah, I think a lot of that does occur because they teach about all sorts of types of health and how to stay healthy and those kinds of things. So I will ask Mrs. Crago and I will put something in the update Friday.
They do have it, there is a unit.
Yeah, and y'all, that's true, you're here.
Well, I mean, I don't actually teach, I integrate it in the elementary level, but I'm not covering all their content area that they cover in the middle school and high school. But they do have it's a social and mental health unit in both the middle school and the high school. So, you know, exactly the content and stuff that they're covering, I'm not, 100% positive. I haven't been in the classes, but I do know that, coping strategies and things that are going on are definitely covered within the parameters of the mental health units. How long the unit takes or everything that's covered within, each unit at each grade level, I couldn't really tell you, but I do know that it is something that's focused on.
How does a student get referred or connected with a Crossroads counselor?
The process depends on the situation. Teachers can refer. Administrators have referred. Obviously, I have 2 guidance counselors at the high school and a counselor at the middle school, so they refer. And then part of it happens to get the help of Crossroads, you have to have the intake and the parent permission and all of those pieces. So,
Now, if we had a social worker on staff ourselves that was on staff, was a Madison local schools employee, would we still have to have parent permission?
I don't know enough about what a social worker would do in a building. I'd have to really look at that. I mean, I know what counselors do, and counselors can talk to kids, and they have that piece of confidentiality, our guidance counselors.
And do our kids, are we making it known that our guidance counselors are there for things other than scheduling? Because I will tell you, my own son said to me, who's in the high school, and I'm like, I'm talking to him about mental health, and I'm talking to him, if you have a problem with something and you can't come to me, I want you to go to your counselor, your school counselor. And he goes, what's she gonna do, change my schedule? I'm like, okay, well, they're there for more than just changing your schedule, but I don't think that all of the kids seem to understand that they have a job outside of arranging your schedule.
And they talk about those in class meetings. When I was at the high school, I know that, the kids that needed to see the counselor, they work in tandem with the administrators, and there's many days that they are dealing with situations and not dealing with schedules or not dealing with graduation requirements or testing. They put a lot of time into the counseling piece. And when I was at the middle school last year, the counselor does a lot of work with working with kids in groups and otherwise.
Which isn't to say it's sufficient,
Yeah.
but under the circumstances, I think they're trying to say we're trying to address problems.
I served 4 years on the Adams board. in Lake County, and, you know, we have a very good mental health system here, you know, among the best in the state. And at the time I served on the board, we were the, per capita, we spent more money on mental health in Lake County than we did in any other county in the state of Ohio. Now, I don't know where we're at today compared to, because I was on the board over a decade ago, but it was quite a long time ago. I don't know if you know, June, from your experience with those folks.
Not right off the top of my head, no.
And, you know, I would love to have a social worker in every building. I just don't know with the financial circumstances that we're in, that we can add it. If we did decide to add anything, I definitely agree that we need to do that through a contract. Because the funding is so up and down, if we hire somebody as a full-time employee, and then the funding goes away, now we're looking at having to lay somebody off, which no one ever wants to do. Although, under a contract, you kind of do that. But then we have unemployment compensation, you know, as well. So I would like to see us do that, but I just don't know that we have the funding. So my input would be that we should look at the budget as we move forward and see where we can add services there, whether that's through the Educational Services Center, because I know they do have social workers employed there, that we can contract with the ESC to get them, or whether it's Crossroads, which is a great organization too. I'd like to see us increase services where we can. I just think we're in such dire straits here with the $2 million shortfall. I don't know how we're in a position to add staff at this point.
Which isn't to say that we can't take that on as a project, Michelle, and as the board, and adopt that as something that we research and bring back. What can we do? What is the vision for the future in terms of mental health for local schools?
Angela, do you think there's anything through the Adams board that they offer that we're not aware of? I'm not sure either. I'm just
No,
asking.
no,
You don't
I
think so?
I don't think so.
I think the school-based programs that they bring in and the prevention and those pieces, I know Signature Health is getting more of a presence too in the
Sure.
community.
What about NAMI?
NAMI we have worked with, but they don't bring people in, they help support
Right.
individual students that are already being worked.
They're more of a consumer empowerment group
Right.
than they are a service provider.
Right.
They come in and support like Crossroad programs, things like that, but
Right.
like the supportive part of it.
So,
I think maybe looking into enhancing what you already have through Crossroads, you know, that could be something to look at too going forward.
and the trauma person, like I said, I actually am saving a little bit of money on her because the contract that we had with Pep Assist was a little bit more or less days last year. So I'm getting more days with less cost, so. And, you know, the actual, another piece that, that's used often too is the SROs in the building are another great avenue because they know a lot of the kids, they know a lot of the families, they do work with kids, and develop some of those relationships. So we do have that as a support system too.
I think using the number of adults that we have working with our kids, and the more the adults in the buildings learn, they're not going to be a social worker or an expert in it, but the more professional development they can get, you're talking about a lot of different people who can help in some ways for kids as well.
It's a network, right?
And they have put that advisory in at the middle school this year where at the end of the day, every kid is in an advisory period and will go back to the same teacher all year long. And so that helps to develop that trust and that communication because it just takes one trusted adult to see that a kid's in need and, you know, can start tapping those resources that are available.
Dave, something you said just triggered a question when you were talking about the adults in the building. What sort of professional development are they getting on mental health?
Well, last year we had a couple biggies. Well, we've had the Adams board in too a couple
Yeah.
of years ago talking about you know, some of the drug concerns. Last year we did a poverty simulation and the impact of poverty on kids. And
I remember that.
how to work through that.
So, but is it going to be continuing ongoing? We're offering more mental health targeted professional development this year as well?
Throughout the year, yes. Staff can tap into that, and I know that, at North Elementary, they've really tapped into doing that at their buildings through some professional development staff meetings. So, yes, we have avenues to help in-service staff on these.
With our trauma person, when she observes a student to kind of see what things are happening, that how's that student being unsuccessful, she then works with staff to say, here might be some triggers, here are some things that you can do to help. And that's just ongoing professional development as those situations arise in the classroom. That's I think her biggest benefit, is that she helps strengthen all of the people in the building. But when we get to my presentation, educating the whole child is one of our areas of focus, and that can go off in a lot of different areas, but it's really about whatever that child's needs are when they come into our classroom. What can we do to help? Because if you're in crisis, you can't learn very well.
So I know if a student's being bullied, we have these posters all over the different buildings telling them that if they don't want to go to an adult in the district, they can call a number, report that, and it'll eventually make its way back to the school soon. Is there anything like that for mental health that we're aware of? I know the Adams Board has the Compass line, which is more of a 211 sort of for mental health. Like I'm calling to access these type of services, where do I go? And they direct you. I just wondered if that would be something that might be available to students that,
Well, actually, the school hotline that we use has that component, and then that comes back to, they get them the help or connect them to something locally, because the component is outside of this area, but then they can connect them to help locally.
I know there are suicide prevention lines, and hopefully we don't have students getting to that point, but if we do, I hope they use that. But, I'm trying to schedule mental health services, I'm suicidal, and there's that area in between where it's like, I just need to talk to somebody for the moment. Like in employment, we have EAPs.
Right.
You call, and then you can fairly quickly access a counselor, whether that even be over the phone or, now they're doing it all through, video chatting, those kind of things. Might be something to look into. I don't know if you have any
Yeah, Jean might know. Do we have?
Most likely, let me look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to say something that might be wrong, so let me make sure. Yeah, there's some things out there for us.
Just brainstorming about ways that are more economical, but still give students, like you're saying, if your son has a concern and he's not comfortable coming to you, you want to go to somebody. And even if that's somebody on the phone,
Absolutely.
it's a resource.
One other thing I just thought of, so we got a notification today. Our kids are on Chromebooks quite a bit, more and more. And when something is typed in there that's of questionable content, and I'm not talking about bad language or something like that, something that might be threatening or self-harming kinds of language, it sends alerts, and a lot of us get them. And so you can see what was written, where it was written, who wrote it. So if somebody is expressing themselves through print, that's another way we might be able to see it and intervene, hopefully.
And we've done that numerous times in the last year, where we've gotten some keywords, and actually that averted some situations because the counselors got right on it. So there's lots of mechanisms in place.
Thank you.
So I will, because I just like to have my task list so that I know what I'm bringing back. But we'll look into hotline numbers. I'll look at what we could do to increase coverage as far as crossroads. What else do you want me to look at?
What our health classes are teaching the
Health
kids.
classes, okay.
Dave, are you going to talk about Tuesdays? Is that
Yes.
what we're doing?
Mhm.
Could you just explain, because we're filming tonight, what the purpose of Late Start Tuesday, it's the beginning of the year, we get these questions every year. Why do we have a Late Start Tuesday? What are we doing?
Yes.
What's the purpose and what's the benefit?
And I think that's really the gist of everything I'm about to talk about. So I'll send this around, and then I'll launch into that. last meeting when we were talking, I mentioned our core areas of focus for the school year. And I think I actually commented under, just thinking out loud, I really need to put this in sort of at a glance format. And that's what I'm sending around to you now. So why do we take time during the school day to meet with the adults? What is that time being used for? And is it worth it to give up that instructional time for professional time? And that's really kind of what I'm going to talk about. So our two big areas of focus this year are improving core instruction, and I've listed several bulleted items there, strategies of how we're going to do that. And down below, the second one is educating the whole child, and I've listed a number of strategies. What I want to focus on is the last strategy in each of those categories, which is continued development of our systems for collaboration. It shows up in both of our big ideas. We believe that adults working together, teacher teams, building teams, and a district team working together in concert, and the research supports that the results that can be achieved through those processes far outweigh the time that we have to spend to get it done. And the research also supports that should be done during the regular school day in order for it to be effective and to have 100% participation. So what we're really working on in these areas this year, and we've been at this for about 4 years. So we have teacher teams that are really doing great work. We have building teams that are doing great work, and a district team that's doing good work. What we're trying to do is become more focused, more aligned, more consistent. And over the past year with our district team, that was one of the areas for improvement that we noted. So first day for the teachers this year, we rolled out a new process for teacher teams. We'll be using Ohio's 5-step process for reviewing data. Data could be about an academic issue, an academic topic, a state standard, could be about a behavioral issue or issues that people are experiencing based on data. Basically, you're going to look at the current data. You're going to talk about what needs to improve. Exactly how are we going to do that? We're going to go out there and do the work, and we're going to come back and see how did that work? Did it fix it? Going through this cycle again and again and again over different pieces of data strengthens all the adults going through the process. And the new form that we're asking teachers to complete each time they go through it will feed then through the building team. Principals will start by looking at it and sharing that information with their building teams. Common issues that come up, buildings will try to solve those issues, support those issues. If they're unable to, they're going to bring them to the district team where we come up, try to support it. So it's basically, instead of a teacher being in isolation, trying to solve these big problems on their own while doing all the other things that are happening in a day, it's trying to use that collective power of a lot of people to do the work and to try to align that, which is challenging. So the new protocol, the new form that teachers are going to fill out helps to improve that communication from the teacher team to the building team to the district team and then back. And to have that consistency from building to building is going to really help yield usable data for the district level team. We've talked tonight about limited funds. The funds that we do have, we want to focus on our priorities, and we have to be able to identify those priorities. We have to know what's happening in all the corners of the district. So, and I was thinking that over the next couple meetings, I'll probably go over a different area of each of a different strategy for our core things that we're working on this year. But I think because this teaming process is where so much of this is going to happen, I thought it was a good place to start today. If we do this well, we should see results in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of large, huge international studies that support this work if done well. and that's our task.
It's something we see as a continuous improvement module. I mean, I had a parent say to me, well, how long is it going to take you to get it down?
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Until 100% of our students are achieving at the ceiling, no matter how good you are, there's always room for improvement. And hopefully we're inching towards that ceiling all along. And if we ever get there, we can probably sell our idea. But, you know.
From my secondary perspective, being a high school, middle school person, when you only see kids one period a day, and then they go off in their own ways, a lot can happen in those conversations in the teams, because you're going to see patterns. And sometimes that's all it takes to say, all right, this kid was getting straight A's here, and then all of a sudden now, he's not doing any work for me. Well, is he doing any work for you? Is what's going, and that's all, that connection to the adults and the adults being aware is what triggers this whole piece of the mental health. And that's what I said in opening day. Yeah, the systems are what the state wants us to do, but it's in the best interest of the kids that we're working together. So.
You ever get any complaints from high school students about sleeping in on Tuesdays? Guessing no.
No.
Yeah, my son actually complained about it this morning.
You complain.
He did. He liked getting there early and just hanging out with his friends.
Who knew?
Yeah, I know.
We're far from the only district that's using this model. Most districts that have teacher-based teams or professional learning communities find that this is a real practical model to be able to get it done.
Does it seem to be working better now that we've aligned the busing schedule?
Yes.
I mean, I know it's better for Auburn, definitely. but-
I was at the middle school this morning, and I can tell you, I was at the middle school many mornings on Tuesdays last year, or in the building, and the energy of the middle school students after being contained in that gym in the cafeteria for a half hour, and then they got set loose to it just set the whole day different. Today, because they just rolled in and it was like any other day, it was a much calmer tone. It really was. I went into a classroom, they were doing what they needed to do. They did, middle school kids can get a little antsy. And it really, I could tell the difference. So. And it allows our administrators to not be supervising and actually working with those teams and being a part of that collaboration, which I think is important. All right. Recommendations of the superintendent. Under the personnel motion this evening, we're asking you to accept the resignation of Lorraine Durst, intervention specialist at Madison Middle School, August 7th, 2019. To accept the resignation of Alicia Fleischer, Madison Pre-K teacher, effective the end of the 2018-19 contract year. We're asking you to rescind the following: the long-term substitute teaching contract of Marilyn Crane to perform the duties of Christopher Collard from September 3rd, 2019 through September 30th, 2019. To rescind the one-year limited half-time teaching contract of Shelby Seibert as intervention specialist at South Elementary School, and then enter into the following employment contracts. Melanie Lawson as a third grade teacher at South Elementary School under a one-year limited contract for the 2019-2020 contract year. To employ Shelby Seibert as intervention specialist, and it should read Madison Middle School under a one-year limited contract effective the 2019-2020 contract year. To employ Marilyn Crane under a long-term substitute teacher contract from August 13th, 2019 through May 28th, 2020 to perform the duties of Amy Godek at the compensation rate of BA0. And then to employ each of the following substitute teachers as approved by the Lake County Educational Service Center and/or the Madison Local School District's Assistant Superintendent under a one-year limited substitute teacher contract for the 1920 school year, starting with Sharon Alcantor and ending with Evelyn Whitman.
to employ the following as building substitutes at a rate of $100 per day effective August 14th, 2019. Emily Rowe, Amy Granite, Rachel Huffman, and Casey Nixis. To employ Barb Hogan as a tutor for the 2019-2020 school year at a rate of $39.70 per hour. To employ the following persons as casual day-to-day substitutes: Edward Reho and Roy Schlee. The following non-certificated person under a one-year limited personal service contract for the 1920 school year: Nick Guston as MHS Assistant Girls Golf Coach. And then we're asking you to amend the following contracts, to amend the contracts of the following nutrition services cashiers to decrease their workday by 1/2 hour on Tuesdays during the 1920 school year from 3.5 hours to 3 hours, effective August 20th, 2019. And to approve the following transfers, to transfer Karen Alley from a 3¼ hour position as a special needs assistant at South Elementary to a 6.5 hour per day special needs assistant at Madison Middle School, effective August 21st, 2019. And to transfer Allie White from 6.5 hours per day special needs assistant position at Madison Middle School to a 6 hour per day special needs assistant at Madison Pre-K, effective August 21st, 2019.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to thank you for having a reputation for being good, great interviewers, hiring people. Others in the community would say you're very tough, but Melanie Lawson is an example of just one more great hire for our school district. We've got great teachers, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I also wanted to say that Melanie, you have been a part of this Madison family for several years now, but it is wonderful. It gives me great pride that you are going to be part of our permanent full-time staff, so thank you.
Yes, we are very lucky. And she has gone above and beyond. A few years ago, when she didn't have that reading endorsement, she went and got that reading endorsement. I mean, she just, and her positive energy is good for everybody.
Welcome.
And I'm sure the staff and the ladies will enjoy her baked goods as well.
I think she brought some yesterday.
No staff here to say what.
They were good, yeah.
They're all gone.
So they're kind of legendary.
They are.
I've tasted them myself. So here it is.
Uh-oh, the North staff's feeling let out.
Feel free to enter office sometime.
See you at the next board meeting. Any other discussion or begging for patrons? Roll call?
Larry Armstrong?
Yes.
Sean Douglas?
Yes.
Michael Howery?
Yes.
Michelle Hayes?
Yes.
Gene Sensi?
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, the next is to approve the following resolution. The Ohio Schools Cooperative Advertising and Receiving of Bids for School Bus Chassis and Bodies.
Angela,
Yes.
you skipped one?
Did I skip one? Oh, because it's so little and it's not highlighted. All right, but I'll come back to it. Can we do
Okay.
this one, or I'll just come back to it?
Advertising, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is there a motion?
What are we giving a motion for, the career
The
advising?
bus.
No,
The bus.
The bus. Then we'll
Oh.
come back to career advising.
Yes, I will move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michael Howery?
Yes.
Michelle Hayes?
Yes.
Gene Sensi?
Yes.
Larry Armstrong?
Yes.
Sean Douglas?
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right. Forgive my old eyes.
I didn't see it either.
It's soon to be, grandma eyes. Next time I come to this meeting, I'll probably be grandma.
Welcome to the club.
Biologically this time, right? Okay, so I want you to look at the review of the career advising policy. We just have to do this per ODE. Every couple of years, you have to review the career advising policy. I sent it home in the packet on Friday. If anybody has any questions, I have the policy.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas?
Yes.
Michael Howery?
Yes.
Michelle Hayes?
Yes.
Gene Sensi?
Yes.
Larry Armstrong?
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Took me a long time to find that even after you said that.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, see,
it took me a minute too.
And I even asked Susan if it was on the agenda today. She goes, yeah, it's there.
See, if you make them 14 pages, you don't lose them.
That's true, in the teeny tiny print. Okay, under the consent calendar, we have several items this evening to approve the 2019-2020 school year student course workbook fee schedule as found in Appendix A, to enter into a contract with Andrea Brady to provide communication support for the district at a cost not to exceed $12,000 a year as found on file in the board office, to enter into a consultant services contract between the Madison Local Schools and Mary Ellen Fesser to provide trauma behavior specialist services for the 2019-2020 school year at a cost not to exceed $30,000, to approve Tammy Bevan as a volunteer nurse and photographer for the Madison High School Band, to enter into an agreement between the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio and the Madison Local Schools to join in the Title III Fiscal Year 20 Limited English Proficient LEP Funds Consortium, to enter into an instant bingo fundraising contract between American Legion Post 601 and the Madison Local Schools for the period from November 1st, 2017 through October 31st, 2020, to approve the contract between the Madison Local School District and Mentor Exempted Village School District CARES for the 2019-2020 school year, to approve an agreement for the services of audiology and hearing impairment between the Madison Local School District and the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for the 2019-2020 school year, and to provide an agreement for the services of one interpreter and one gifted coordinator between the Madison Local School District and the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Any discussion? So I know we have Tammy Bevan on the agenda for approval as a volunteer, long-term volunteer at band. So when we have these volunteers that we're approving, what's the process for them to get approved by the board prior to us approving? They have background checks, what is it?
Right, they have to have the background check. So, and as we talked at the last board meeting, we're looking at getting a machine here on site so that we are going to start doing an application process for all volunteers and developing that database so that we know who's coming into the buildings and working with our kids.
Background checks for teachers are through the Educational Services Center? Right? Or
That's
are
where
doing
we
that?
have done them, but if we have our own machine, they'll do them here. Because they have to do them every 5
I think
years.
it's well worth the investment for those machines. We have them for the Child and Family Services, for foster parents and other, child care providers, staff, when we're hiring people.
Right,
And there's a cost savings on every transaction compared to what you're going to pay going out to other entities like the ESC or
Right.
Sheriff's Office.
correct,
And convenience for staff is obviously going to be
yes.
big too. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes,
Michael Howery,
Yes.
vote is 5-0.
that's that. All right, we'll now open the second public participation portion for the evening. This would be on any item. If you could just state your name and address for the board.
I would just like to thank Gary Majernik, who is from Post 601. He has been a longtime supporter of the schools, has volunteered in many capacities, and is always looking out to help kids in our community. And who do you have with you tonight, Gary?
Hi, I'm Gary Majernik, I'm from American Legion. This is Terry, the treasurer from American Legion. I already gave the contract and I talked to Angela and all that. Well, we're here today, Terry, you're here today to give them a check. We gave $4,000 in the scholarships this year, and basically, we screwed up. I wrote it out in the wrong checking account. So we're gonna get that corrected today, but in addition to that, he's gonna write you out the check for the $7,100 and whatever amount to the school district. And I already talked to Angela and Mike, and it's going to them so they can distribute it wherever it's needed.
That's awesome.
That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
And I wanted to say something earlier, Michelle, about your mental health.
Yes.
Yes, there are phone numbers for that. And also, talk to Crossroads. They got peer recovery supporters. They talk to kids, they go to school, and they get state license. They're not a counselor and all that, but what it is a one-on-one, and they help with determining if the kid needs help, because I'm state certified. but they go in and they talk to your kids and all that, and on a one-on-one basis, and get friendly with them and all that, and they can let you know. But Crossroads should have something like that.
Thank you.
And there are phone numbers, if you want them, I could get them.
Good to know, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Do we have a need for executive session?
Yeah.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Any discussion? I'd like to say all in favor say bye, but we'll just do a roll call.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
vote is 5-0.